Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As you already know, this is your U.S. General 5-drawer tool card with side tray and deep compartment. Today is Sunday, as you can see. We now back over at the storage unit, getting back to it, getting busy as always. Okay, in today's video segment presentation will be a little slight comparison amongst quite a few different tools, just as well as I will be responding to a question that was asked by another fellow YouTube content creator out on his own platform and his own channel that goes by the name of Fast Eddie. So if you never seen his channel or seen any of his videos, look out for him. He is putting out quite some good content. In this particular video, I will be giving some informative information for some of those younger technicians out there coming into the field, just as well as for some of the individuals out there who may not necessarily have a mechanical background. All right, but I ain't gonna hold you up too much more longer in the introductory get things. But as I always state, as usual, I always keep my signature lingering somewhere in the background. My Dunkin' Donuts coffee. You already know. Okay? So pretty much I'm about to get quite a few things out to the top of the tool cart. We're going to give you a quick little rundown. So walk with me. Let's get it. Okay, now that I have quite a few things sitting out at the top of the tool cart, I just want to give you a little quick brief run through and description of what each item is so that you understand what you are basically taking a look at. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here towards the back. What these are called oil filter pliers. All right, and if you take notice to its jaws here, all right, this set here allows low profile oil filter socket set part number 13300. What you're taking a look at here is a Mac Expert universal swivel. This is made by Mac Tools, just as well as this is a 21 millimeter made by Mac Expert. All right. What you're taking a look at here is an Autocraft. This is a 64 millimeter. All right. This is basically used for Toyota's Lexus and Scions. And if you take notice to the teeth, this is an oil filter flute. There are different designs of oil filter flutes. All right. This here is a Stillman Pro. This is a 75 millimeter. And these are also Stillman Pros, but these are of different designs. I'm going to get back to these later on in this video and explain for what reason why I have some of these items out. What you're taking a look at here is what is called a 1/2-inch drive oil filter claw. Just as well as this is a USA made Craftsman's 3/8 drive oil filter claw. This is an oil filter wrench. All right, there are many different styles of these particular type oil filter wrenches. This is the metal version. They also have a rubber version, just as well as they have a chain version. What you're taking a look at here is a 1/2-inch drive Milwaukee Pearhead design 90 tooth ratchet, just as well as this is a 1/2-inch drive extension. Which you're taking a look at here is the 3/8 drive Milwaukee 90 tooth design ratchet. What you're taking a look at here is a Milwaukee 6-inch extension, and then you have a 3-inch extension. What you're taking a look at here is an 18-inch snap-on locking flex head ratchet. All right, this is of the 80 dual design. What you're taking a look at here is your snap-on roto head design, which is a 90 tooth design. Here, what you're taking a look at is a snap-on bent handle. Some would know this to be as a spark plug removal tool. This is one of my most go-to and most highly used ratchets. Okay, this is a 36 tooth, just as well as I also keep a 80 dual design. All right, you can basically see the little indifference between the wear and the finish. Okay, because I have using this for quite some time. But to move along in this video, all right, this is mainly more based off a question back some time on Fast Eddie's channel where he was obtaining some Lutech service equipment. I'm not quite sure whether he works on small engines or whether he's a field service tech or something like that. But what he had basically picked up was the chain style oil filter wrench. All right. In some instances, I consider the chain style oil filter wrench to be more of a specialty type tool, just as well as something similar to your oil filter claws. When you basically have to go to an oil filter change, that means, the situation that you ran into, it really requires it. It can become a lifesaver. Depending upon what type of make and model vehicle you have, oil filters do range differently. They're not created equal. There are many different types of filters, whether they're located on the top of the engine, some are located underneath, and some of the most newest make model vehicles, such as certain BMWs and certain Mercedes, you will find the oil filters in paper form, more closer towards the back firewall of the vehicle. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get into a little demonstration when it comes to the question that he had asked was is that he had picked up a 3/8 drive. All right, oil filter claw. He didn't not necessarily know whether a 1/2 inch existed. So here it is that I am showing you that the 1/2 inch do exist. All right, now the differentials between sometimes having quality equipment versus some inexpensive type quality equipment. If you take notice here, all right, this is a Craftsman's made in the USA, part number 20523. If you take notice to the front, the bottom plate shield and the upper plate shield, you can see that this is riveted, all right, in comparison to the 1/2 inch drive. Now, this is of a cheap off brand, all right, which is more or least inexpensive. And if you notice that it actually has screws to the upper top plate. And if you take notice to the back end, these screws screw into the bottom plate. So within time, this is a more cheaper quality and cheaper design because these screws can back out and then the whole mechanism can basically fall apart. This is something that Snap-on basically switched up with some of their wrenches as of lately and certain particular ratchets, okay, depending upon how much torque and force that you're putting on to keep these screws from backing out and the assembly from falling apart. It will be less of a chance that that would happen with a design that's more like this, all right? So, between the two, there is a difference. When it comes to removing certain filters, okay, there's different types of designs of flutes. When it comes to these particular flutes, I would suggest that individuals, kind of stay away from this particular material. And if you can get the chrome sets, for what reason? Why is that throughout time with heavy abuse and heavy use, these particular flutes, they do mushroom out and they do round off. Okay, and another thing is that there's a difference because these designs is mainly more built and designed more like a particular socket. So what I want to do is I want to get an extension and put an extension in here and give you an example to show you something real quick. Let's get it. All right, now that I have the extension on a flute, okay, and as you can take notice, you see the flex and the play because, they start to mushroom out throughout time. Now, this is the proper drive size. Another issue with these is if you notice towards the inside, how the extension exceeds the inner drive portion, so that now when you're putting the flute on, this engages with the filter itself, okay, and it can tend to push back. All right, so these I don't necessarily suggest. Okay, this is a better design because if you notice now it's flushed, and if you take notice that they're more enough recessed. So when it comes to sets like these, for the individuals out there, if you're looking to get a good quality set that's basically going to work for you for quite a long time, I would suggest that you get sets that are more like this. instead of sets like these. You can find these sets, you know, they're cheap, you know, if you are not necessarily servicing your own vehicles all the time and things like that. I'm not saying, you know, don't get you the best bang for your buck, but if you're working in a professional settings where you work on a different variety and range of vehicles, okay, because not all technicians work on every vehicle. There's some technicians that specialize in certain particular make and model vehicles. Okay, a shop that I worked in, we covered basically everything, basically up into the most newest make and model vehicles that are on the road. I used to service a lot of dealership vehicles, even though the company I worked for wasn't a dealership. Okay. Okay, another common issue with some of these oil filter flutes is that sometimes towards the inner portion here, okay, sometimes they also round out, okay, and they become less aggressive when engaging and gripping the filter. So sometimes, you know, when a situation like that occurs, I advise that you get a shop rag, okay, and you can take a shop rag, and then the shop rag, okay, will compensate for the areas that the flute is not engaging with the filter in order for you to release the filter. Okay. All right, I just finished my little cup of coffee, so I'm going to use this cup as a demonstration when it comes to what you can see here is your oil filter pliers. All right, so for those younger technicians out there, sometimes you have to be careful depending upon how aggressive the teeth are and depending upon the size and dimension of the filter itself. Because as you can see, you know, when you're going to turn and depending upon what type of leverage, the teeth are biting down, okay, into the filter. So what can basically happen is you can puncture the filter. And if you puncture the filter, all right, what will happen is the oil will start spurting all over the place. And another thing to keep in mind that if the vehicle is not cooled down, that when the fluid drops, the fluid will be hot. So, you know, it can become quite a mess. All right. Sometimes if you feel uncomfortable and you feel that a situation like that is tending to occur, this is another example that I can give you. So as you can see, even though I have the rag, all right, what the rag will do, it will absorb, you know, from it spurting outwards, but the problem will be that it will still drop and the rag will consume it very quick because it is hot and it's falling, all right, but it will enable it from spurting all over the place. All right, because sometimes the teeth from these jaws can be quite aggressive. You're not basically going to use a tool like this on top if you're working from on top, but more than likely you're going to use a tool like this if you're working from the bottom. Okay. So to give you a quick example of how the claw operates and works, okay, and if you take notice how it adjusts and it locks in, not all make model vehicles are designed differently. So not all the time you will be able to just put a ratchet on an oil filter claw like this. Sometimes it will enable you to need a 3-inch extension, a 6-inch extension, or 11-inch extension. But the higher that you go in extension, and depending upon how tight the filter is locked in, all right, depending upon the force that you're putting on the ratchet, sometimes what happens is, especially like an 11-inch extension, you will see a slight flex, okay? When you start to see a slight flex, what tends to happen a lot is that this pin, all right, in the ratchet head starts to spread because the ratchet is flexing itself. So this is for what reason why I actually also have a 1/2-inch drive, so that when it's over tightened, all right, more enough, I move from a flex head version. All right, I move from a flex head version to a pair head design version, okay, because I'm not going to get no flex, all right, because the head is not flexing, All right. So sometimes this is important also for those individuals out there who may not necessarily work in a professional shop. And say, for instance, you're a DIYer, all right, and you're working with a vehicle that is mainly more surfaced on ground and you don't necessarily have a lift. When it comes to a 1/2 inch like this and an 18-inch, all right, this may not be a good option because you don't have the clearance in order to use a particular tool like this. You won't mainly have the option to be able to use this depending upon if the filter is underneath the vehicle, because you won't have the access, especially if you need a long extension and depending upon where the filter is located. So this is for what reason why it's good to have a more shorter version 1/2 inch drive. A lot of times this is why technicians and mechanics have a lot of different varieties of ratchets for different applications, different specifications when situations arise and they are called upon. Okay. In an event when I cannot necessarily get a more longer ratchet in, a lot of times I will go to the snap-on 90 tooth design. The more higher the tooth count, the less of an arc swing it requires, okay, in order to break a fastener loose, okay, because the engagement of the tooth count, all right. So that's what arc swing is, all right. The arc swing is the teeth engaging. Now with a 36 tooth count, it would take more, okay, for me to remove something with a 36 tooth or a 72 tooth count. All right. So like I said, when it comes to oil filters, not all oil filters are created equal. What you're taking a look at is the Laos low profile socket set, which comes in a 24 millimeter, 29, 27, 36, 35, and 32 millimeter. Okay, so this is what, you know, your low profile oil filter sockets would commonly look like. You know, I have a different variety of sets. I even have the snap-on set, but the snap-on set, some of the measurements I don't suggest because you cannot necessarily get them in certain particular areas depending upon what type of make and model vehicle you are working on. So I do, you know, suggest this set right here. These sets run roughly about $50. Snap-on do provide Lyle's products on their truck just as well, and you can pick these up in retailers and things like that, right, of that nature. These do hold up, so don't think that, you know, they're of a cheap quality. These are lifetime warranty just as well. As you can take notice, there are wear on some of the particular sockets, you know, from common use on certain common particular vehicles. All right. So I do suggest that you keep a set like this, depending upon if you work on a different variety and range of vehicles. This can become very handy and helpful. If you basically do not have a set like this, you will not be able to provide service to certain particular vehicles when the time comes, and it will put you in a position where you may have to ask another technician, you know, can you borrow a particular socket, because you may not need all of them, but it's good to have the whole full set. It's best to invest in yourself so that, you know, when you come across the work, you don't necessarily have to ask anybody for anything. Okay. All right. Another thing that I want to mention amongst, you know, the different designs of oil filter flutes. All right. When I did show you the 21 millimeter, all right, which is made by Expert. Say, for instance, you didn't necessarily have a 1/2 inch drive ratchet accessible to you, all right? Or say, for instance, you did, okay? You can get a 21 millimeter socket towards the end of the flute. Not just that, you can also use a combination open end wrench, okay, to be able to remove a filter. All right. In the event that, say, for instance, you don't have the proper drive size available to you during the time. So it's the same thing for these particular sets, because as you can see, this is a 21 millimeter. All right, so in situations when it comes to sets like these are more beneficial than you actually having a set like this. All right, because you will not necessarily have that feature at your disposal, depending upon the selection of tools and equipment that you may have. And once again, as you can take notice here, all right, how the drive size is mushrooming out. All right, this is a heavily used oil filter flute, which is a common size. I pulled this particular one out. I have quite a few of the same size, but this is more of an older make, so that you can basically get an idea of how it rounds out and it pushes through. All right. I have noticed in the past where these have bent inwards. Okay. Another thing I would like to mention, that I do not advise that you use equipment like these, all right, on with tools like these. It is never suggested, all right, which is a 3/8 drive stubby cordless impact, and this is an Ingersoll Rand 3/8 drive stubby impact pneumatic impact gun. When using equipment like this, always wear your safety protection, cover your eyes. You only get one eyes in this lifetime. It's very important. Safety first, as always. All right, we're going to end this video right about now. This is the end of the week. All right, it's about to be a whole new fresh week out there. Want everybody to keep it a safe and a blessed one, as always. And until that next tool haul, that next modification video, that next toolbox tour, that next stacking video, we're going to check you later. Peace.